hello everybody. Here she is in all her beauty and in the woods, obviously. I'm talking about the new 750 Transalp Honda. A bike that has met some criticism, some admiration, but having driven now more than 1,000 miles on it, I think I can make some judgment calls. First of all, on this bike you find the Karoo Street tires, and the Karoo Street tires are tires that are a bit more noisy than other tires, so you have to get used to it. I'm told they get less noisy over time, so be patient. But there are some Transalps that are not delivered with Karoo Streets, so you might wish to check which tires you have. As you can see from the profile, they're decent off-road tires, meaning that you can use them outside or on track. But you know, and I know, we both know that track use, off-road use is limited to dry environment. As soon as it gets wet, you will have more problems. What we have here also is this coverage. This coverage makes the bike more heavy, and it creates a more sound effect from the engine. And the question is, do you need all that? Well, you need it probably if you want a more off-road use of that bike, knowing that with suspension that is not that you cannot regulate, you have to find out for yourself, do I need to have a engine protection on my bike if I use it mainly on the road, knowing also how expensive this edition can be to your budget. Okay, so this edition covers both the engine block as well as the side, but not the side walls. Now the side walls will be covered by the steering wheel in most instances, but if you do have a slip and your steering wheel comes to the side, you will damage this plastic part, and knowing Honda, you'll pay dearly for that. You can also see on my bike that we have the engine, hand guards. They are flimsy, but they are good for wind protection. And I checked whether you can use aftermarket hand guards, and I'd like to show you the attachment points here. The attachment points are important because on this side, where you have the brake cylinder, you need a very special piece of attachment to make sure it works. You cannot, I think, reasonably think that you can fix the bark busters to your steering wheel on this side because of this cylinder and the space that's available on the cylinder, between the cylinder and the steering wheel. So steering. So beware, they are horribly expensive and they may not be as sturdy as you would want them, knowing however that there is this metal lining that somehow protects all this. This is, oh no, this is plastic. So beware, you'll pay a lot for something that may not be as sturdy as you want it. The side fixation is standard, but it's especially on this side where you need to think, how can I fix this to the engine or to the motorcycle? On the other side, you have more space. You could fix it here to the steering wheel, but here you can see that this leg it's fixed to the mirror side, which is the standard Honda hand protection that you can buy from Honda. What do we have else? We have this wind protection flaps here and here. If you are very sensitive to noise, they may make some noise, and I'm not sure how protective they are. But what you see on this bike is also the very high windshield, what we'll call the touring windshield, which is much higher. If you don't use that touring windshield, I've driven 100 miles per hour on the smaller original windshield, and it works. If you're really worried, you can go down and put your head behind the windshield. But in essence, the standard windshield, try it out first before you order the touring windshield, because it might just work for you depending on your use. Okay, so it's an important one, because all these gadgets, the engine protection gadget, the side protection of the engine, which I can recommend. I mean, the costs of replacing these parts are horrendous. So probably you also want, if you go off-road, to protect your side panels. You have the hand guards. I discussed them. It's probably difficult to find some aftermarket that have exactly those fixation points. And then you have this touring windshield with the flaps. I am told that there are engine protection parts from Hepco and Becker that are less expensive, so you might want to check that out. What else do we see? We have a quick shifter, and the quick shifter, like everything on this engine part of this bike, you have to drive about 500-600 miles. You have to do the first inspection to really feel the engine here. So please be patient. Don't be impatient. It takes a little while, and after 1,000 miles, you'll find this engine to be rock solid, very responsive, and very fast. So don't get worried too soon about what's happening on the engine. Take your time, get used to it. This same applies to this quick shifter, which in the beginning, when you are not used to it, may sometimes surprises you, especially at low RPMs. So find out where at higher RPMs, both on the upshift, especially on the downshift, you'll find your comfort level, and you will find this a very, very good addition to your bike. So if anything, you would probably want to add the quick shifter to your bike. Now this bike comes as in this color version, with this white three-color version with this blue saddle and the golden rims, which is a preferred version for many. The iridium gray looks great also. The iridium gray is more matte finish, and then you have the black one as well. So choose your color wisely, knowing that only on this white surface you can actually attach these decals. So the reason why there are decals on this one and not on the iridium gray is probably because the iridium gray has this more rough surface, which I love, and has a great shine in the sun. So please check out whether which one you prefer. Okay, I love this actually because it has this blue, whitish blue saddle and golden rims, and it's a classic. I mean, this bike with over 90 horsepower is it. I mean, I thought it was a good bike, but I found out it's even a better bike than I thought. It drives nicely below 5,000 RPM, but on the highway at above 100 miles an hour, it's and about 6,000 RPM, you can still accelerate like crazy. So this bike offers it all, the low RPM and the high RPM with the Honda Vortex system. So it's quite impressive, But again, be patient. Don't judge it on the first 500 miles. Take some time to make it work for you. Okay? That's about it. I mean, in a quick review, I'm not going to talk about the riding modes, only to say one thing. There should be no riding modes on this bike, because the only riding mode that makes sense is sport. I can be a comfort rider, but the rain mode is completely useless. So the only riding mode for me that makes sense is a sport mode, and I'm not a sport driver. Okay? The second thing is suspension. You may not be able to regulate the suspension, but I find the suspension at my weight category, I'm about 75 kilos, to be excellent. I don't know whether it gets worse when you're heavier, but the fact that it's not you cannot regulate it has not bothered me one bit. So it works just fine on off-road use. It works fine on the road. It has enough travel, and it's very, very good. So yes, other bikes in the same category have suspension that you can regulate, and you'll have to find out, especially if you drive two persons on the bike, whether that's sufficient. The center stand here that's on the bike, the only thing I would order if I were you in the first instance is, except if you get a special deal, is the quick shifter. Forget the center stand, forget the engine protection, forget all the rest, except maybe the hand guards. Try out the standard screen first, because it offers great protection and you're good to go, basically. Competition. I had the competition. I had the KTM 790. It's probably a faster bike. It has more. This has 16.9 liters. It has 20 liters gasoline. So it has more gasoline, more mileage. I can do below 4 here, liters per kilometers, which brings me to about 400 kilometers on a tank. That's about the same as with the KTM. So the advantage here, I have the power of the KTM, but I don't have this unnerving, ready to race feeling from the KTM. So, and the whine of the engine of the KTM, and I can sit on this bike for more than 10 minutes. I'm joking, but the KTM, I don't know who is driving a KTM or which engineer designs their saddles. This is way more comfortable than a KTM. I can drive this for hours without any real issues. Apart from KTM, you have the new Suzuki 800. That's a real competitor. I like both. I like the design of the Transalp a little bit more than the Suzuki, but both have great engines and they are probably comparable. Suzuki has also a 20-liter tank and is a very reliable bike and has suspension that you can adapt to your usage. It has a smaller windscreen, even standard. So there are some features that you don't have, but there is one feature that comes standard with the Suzuki, which is a quick shifter, and it seems to work fine. Other bikes, there are plenty. The Tenere 700 is a real competitor. I mean, people who drive the Tenere are probably more off-road oriented. They like bikes. It's like a bicycle. It's very fast. It's very good. It has enough power. It has a 16-liter tank. It's a bit more on the nimble side. I prefer the Transalp because it's more sturdy. It handles better for me than the more nimble Tenere. But if you're a Tenere owner and fan, you know what I mean. I mean, the Transalp is more a bus against the Tenere, which is a more nimble bike. We have others. We have Aprilia 660, which I haven't tested, so I cannot comment on. And we have the new generation from China, which is Vogue. We got CF Moto with the KTM engine 790s. I'm a bit worried about this KTM 790 engine because I don't want this whine again. I like this Honda. Honda has the ability to make engines that have this very round sound, and that sound so well. And maybe I can share that with you. I have to take out the gear. Okay, hold on with me. Oh, here we go. So this is compared to Suzuki, a bit more noisier, but more rough. But it's not. I mean, if you have an Africa Twin, you'll find an exhaust sound that's a bit even more expressive. This is probably in between, but it's a core sound. It's a good sound. I wouldn't add another exhaust. What I like this exhaust about, Honda put this aluminium part on it, which makes it a bit sleeker. Both Tenere and the Suzuki don't have this, they have this matte exhaust, which I don't particularly favor. I have no need for an aftermarket exhaust on this bike, as I mostly don't have aftermarket needs for exhaust on most bikes. So this is just fine, as you may have heard on the video. I love this bike. I said it before, I'll say it again. For those who are wondering about the luggage system, check my other video. The NT1100 luggage fits on the Transalp. The only thing you have to do is to add the two pieces here. You have to add the two pieces here, and you have to add a piece here to hold the luggage. So they are the same luggage pieces that are on the NT1100. And for the top case, you need a special fixation. Sorry about this. For the top case as well. The holes are pre-drilled, as you can see. Sorry about the, yeah, here we are. The holes are pre-drilled, so you can fix aftermarket pieces on here. But you can also fix soft panniers on this bike as well, depending on what brand you bought. Again, from all the bikes I had in this category, and many people will say nobody needs more than this kind of bike. The reason I like is, and that's maybe something for the Suzuki, it's about 230 kilos. We are here more closely to 200 like for the KTM. We have this lightness factor. I have also an Africa Twin. It's a game changer. I mean, this bike in size, in pleasure to drive, both slowly and fast. You can drive this supermoto style. You can drive this very leisurely on the countryside. You can drive this even off-road. So for me, this bike has nailed it. I know money is an issue. 10,000 plus euros is an issue. Then adding these gadgets that I just shown you is an issue. But in the end, looking at what the competition can offer, you can probably buy an old SV1000 DL V-Strom for the same price, and that may be, sorry about the engine here, that may be an alternative. So if you're looking in the aftermarket, the V-Strom 1000 is probably a good possibility. It's a 1000 engine. You can get Africa twins with decent mileage and DCT at around this price point as well. So you have to be a bit thinking about yourself, knowing that the Africa twin is about 244 kilos and the V-Strom is not light either, but they have a different, depending on your mileage you do, different engine characteristics. 92 horsepower, plenty of power. I thought initially that the Suzuki had more responsive power in the bottom range. This is due mainly to the gearing on the bike. This bike is absolutely incredible. If you drive out the third gear, you end up at 100 miles an hour and you still have 3 gears to go. So this is, I'm not going to call it a race bike, but it's a very, very powerful bike that you can go very slowly with, but also very fast with. So whatever you do, try it out. It doesn't have the DCT, I know. It's not the NC750 replacement. NC750 Honda, especially has a DCT, is a completely different animal. Has 40 horsepower less approximately, and you can feel that. Here you have an engine with this vortex technology that, like I said, at 100 miles an hour can still accelerate incredibly well for such a small, oh, it's not small, compared to an Africa Twin, it's about the same size bike that you can have and count your own. Is it worth buying new? Well, that's a thing for you to decide. At this price point, it's probably something you could buy new, because depending on what gadgets you add, you can keep the price point low. It will take some time for these prices to come down. You've seen how motorcycle prices have gone up incredibly over the last month. Is it better than a Hornet? Again, that's definitely something you have to consider. If you're more a road user, you can have a lot of fun with the Hornet. For me, these gold rims, this Enduro style, this 2-color saddle, this seating position is just incredibly smart from Honda. They took a while to get this done, but you can really see that Honda has put some great minds together to deliver a great bike. Will it do 100,000 miles? We don't know yet, but I can tell you from the feel when I drive the 750X, NC750X, the Africa Twin, or this bike, I can feel Honda quality and their longevity. So having these bikes at 50,000 miles and 100,000 miles wouldn't surprise me over the next 10 years. So buying it now and owning it from scratch as a new bike is probably something to consider. So have fun, try one out, try the Suzuki as well, because it creates some, the Suzuki is probably more powerful at low torque. It has a more powerful feeling, but I can tell you, the more I drive this Honda, the more I like it. I hope you enjoyed it, and speak to you soon.